So let's take a look at DP deliverables. I really don't know a whole lot about the business use behind this, but I can at least show you how it's structured within the tool. So if I look on the home menu and I go to the next button, I see this list of custom objects, and underneath that I see DP deliverable list. So if I go there, I see that there are 134 DP deliverable instances of this object, and 5 of them are inactive, so that there are 129 active elements in this list. So each of these, as I understand it, corresponds to a specific deliverable that you might have in the course of a project. So there is certain information about each one of these deliverables. If I look at project charter, there is an approver, there is a step at which it's required, and that's pretty much it. There really isn't a whole lot of data to this. Um, so if we look at a project, the project has a subpage called DP checklist. So the DP checklist consists of a whole bunch of things that you might need to make sure you do before you go to a governance checkpoint for this particular project. So you can create new checklist items, and when you do, it asks you to pick the deliverable that corresponds to this checklist item. And if I browse into that, we can see that there are 129 of them, big surprise, which corresponds to all of the existing DP DP deliverables that are defined. So if I go look at the objects in Clarity, we can see each of them. There's DP checklist and DP deliverable. The DP deliverable is a master object. So it stands alone, and that's why you find it underneath the next menu, underneath custom objects. There it is, because it's a master object that we've defined. However, if I look at the DP checklist, that is a sub-object of the project object, which is why when you look at a project, where's my project? Here it is. When you look at a project, we have a subpage for DP checklists. Now, the way that these two are connected is when you create a new instance of a DP checklist, there is a process called DP checklist create. And if I look at this, the description says copies data from referenced DP deliverable. So the idea is I create a new DP checklist, I select the DP deliverable that it's associated with, and the data from that deliverable gets copied into the checklist item. That way, whenever you create a new project charter, you don't have to bring in all of the details around that item. It's loaded from the DP deliverable object. So that's fairly straightforward. The only part about this that is a little bit baffling in its complexity is the fact that if I look at this process, most of it looks pretty ordinary. It's based on the DP checklist object, which makes sense because we're creating a new checklist, so we're going to get data and populate it from somewhere. The start option says that this process is an auto start. Whenever you create a new instance of a DP checklist, it kicks off the process. And if I look at the process flow diagram, there's only one step, and that's copy data from DP deliverable into the DP checklist. The baffling part is if I look at this script. This is a custom gel script, which it needs to be, but the thing is massively huge. And there are only a couple of fields on that DP checklist and on that DP deliverable item, so I have no idea why this particular gel script is just unbelievably huge. Now, it does use a Zog call using SOAP, which takes a lot of lines of code. It's also very thoroughly documented. There's lots of comments within this script, but still, this is monstrous. You could do this with a direct database update, do a SQL update, and you could do it probably in about 12 lines of code. CA tells you not to do that, but CA support told me to do it that way for the SIR module, so I would have done it that way. The person who wrote this, I'm not even sure who it was. It was back in 2013. It was someone from CA. It wasn't Seamus Smith. It wasn't Newman. It wasn't Simon Hunt. So I'm not sure who SKT is, but it definitely was a CA development for us. And as I said, I don't know quite the business background to it. I wasn't involved in this development, but that's what we have to go by. So massively huge script in order to copy over what really is only a few fields, because if you look at the DP deliverable object and look at the attributes, there's only 4 custom attributes on this object. So I really, without studying that script, have no idea what in the world it's doing, but it's huge. So assuming that you don't need any modifications need to that step where we copy in data from the deliverable into the checklist, then everything's fine and it should be okay. If you do decide that there are more fields needed here that need to be reflected on the DP checklist object, then you're going to have to go in and mess around with this script. And all I can say is good luck, because I wouldn't want to have to delve into this. I think you're going to need to hire CA and pay them a lot of money to get somebody to go through and decipher this and then update it, unless you can figure out who SKT is and get him or her to do it for you. So that's about as much as I know about the DP deliverable item and object. And anything beyond that, go back to CA and ask them, because I was not involved in that development and don't know what they did.